Welcome back. As we earlier said in our intro, we're going to be embarking and taking a comprehensive look over the latest happening inside the region and the escalating crisis that took place inside Beirut, Lebanon, when Israel bombed Hezbollah fronts. And of course, the strikes took place in Beirut. And of course, we're very delighted to be having with us here live in the, over the phone, Ambassador Ayman Mousharafa, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good morning, Ambassador Mousharafa.
Good morning, and good morning to the audience.
Good morning to you, sir. Of course, the whole world woke up earlier this week to the strikes that took place in Beirut, Lebanon, and of course these were sad news. They were against international law. It was terrorizing innocent civilians, and it was all against the norms of any legacy. If you'd like to talk to us about how do you see those strikes, especially that later on the UN have issued statements, of course, detaining those strikes and calling for Israel to withdraw from the areas it occupied in 1967 and calling for a transparent investigation into this illegal strikes that took place in Beirut by Israel.
As you said, it is a breach of international law. It's a breach of the normal code of international relations, and a clear operation of sabotage, which not killed only a friendship of Hezbollah, it killed innocent people, women and children. So according to the international relations, and it is a clear breach of the sovereignty of Lebanon. We could not, and the United Nations, has condemned. The United Nations has condemned many operations, many incursions in Lebanon and in Syria and in Palestine and elsewhere. But we want to see action. Well, it is not only the condemnation or a presidential statement from the Secretary General. We want to see action from the international community to condemn such an act of sabotage.
Right. As we know that the Israeli occupation have targeted pagers and walkie-talkie by Hezbollah officials while they were shopping, while they were mobilizing inside Beirut, and they were of course moving beside civilians. There is an international law that ban that type of striking. If you would like to talk about it.
The international law is in vacation, actually. That's what I said. Before, it's a breach of, it's a clear act of aggression, it's a clear act of sabotage, it's a clear sabotage and targeting civilian, innocent people, as you said, shopping, doing their normal lives. At the end of the day, it shows the Israeli edge in technology, but we need more action. We need the international community to come to stand with Lebanon and to have a clear investigation of what's happening. Of course, all the circumstances pinpoint to Israel, and the fingerprints of Israel is very clear, because the only country who has this technological edge in the Middle East is Israel. And of course, we are waiting. We are waiting with such an action condemnation from the ITU, with the International Communications Organization, and from the United Nations, and from the Security Council, which is the executive branch of the United Nations system, not only the General Assembly or just statements here and there.
Right. We have seen Israel moving troops from the West Bank to Lebanon in a sign of an anticipation to a full-scale war that is about to be happening. What are your expectations for the upcoming period in Lebanon, and how do you read the Israeli mind when it comes to this particular phase in the Middle East?
Anyway, it's very clear. In any war, the first thing that the enemy is doing is crippling the communication system of the other opponent. And what the Americans did in the war of Iraq, they have crippled the communication system between the Iraqi high command and the army, and the Iraqi army. So I think crippling the line of command and the line of communication, Hezbollah shows that Israel is going to have another phase.
In case a war happens, how is that going to affect the whole region? I mean, economically, strategically, politically. How do you imagine the map of the Middle East is going to be formed?
As I said before, Israel, they have a very clear intention. When Netanyahu last year in the United Nations displayed the map of Israel without the West Bank, without recognizing that the West Bank is a part of Palestine, as a part of the Palestinian state, which should be having Gaza and the West Bank. And the plan of the Israeli far right and Netanyahu is to create a buffer zone in the south of Lebanon to be able to return the settlers or the inhabitants of the Galilee and the north of Israel. So, I mean, they would be moving against Hezbollah in the south of Lebanon, and maybe further, because actually in 1982 we had a full-scale Israeli invasion. It reached Beirut. You never know what's going to happen, and you never know, I mean, the extent of the Israeli plan, since the international community is totally silent, and we just hear a condemnation. We didn't see economic sanctions. We didn't see a United Nations resolution under the Security Council, under Chapter 11, condemning or forcing Israel to retreat. I mean, if there is no condemnation, I mean, well, the Israeli will continue and the war will be rolling. And it will be, I mean, a big avalanche, which would cripple the whole Middle East. I mean, and the survival of this government depends on the widening of the tension. The government of Israel, Netanyahu and the far-right coalition and the religious party having a strategy to prolong their reign through creating tension and widening tension in the Middle East and directing nuclear like Iran, like the Syrian government, like other players.
Right. In an unprecedented moment, the General Assembly have totally supported the Palestinian side when they issued a statement that Israel should within a year in full force withdraw from the areas it has occupied in 1967 and go back to where it is. How do you see this statement by the General Assembly in the United Nations, and do you feel credibility enough, or it is, as usual, statements in the air?
It is not statement, it's a resolution.
Of course, it's a resolution. They just renewed it.
It's a resolution, and this resolution was voted by a very, very large majority. But I mean, most of the resolution condemning Israel, condemning settlement, condemning aggression, it has been in the shelf and the archives of the United Nations since 1967, and nothing concrete has came to life, because the executive branch of the United Nations is crippled, the Security Council. The General Assembly is like the Parliament of the United Nations. The Parliament and each state have an equal vote. They do not have a veto. So the conscience of the world has condemned Israel very clearly with a large majority. But you need a peace. You need power. The power lies in the hands of the Security Council, which is being vetoed by the United States of America. Or most of the resolution or the draft resolution trying to condemn Israel and to force Israel to come to their senses have been vetoed by the Americans. So as long as the United States is pursuing the policy of vetoing, I mean, nothing will come out of the box.
Right. Like you kindly mentioned, and as we all know, that that particular important resolution by the United States have been issued but still, like any other resolution, like millions and millions and hundreds of resolutions that are issued by the same international community, the UN, nothing is being executed. So talking about Israel, they know, I mean, Israel knows very well that the U.S. is in full control of international community, and they are supported by the Western world, most of the European countries, and by the United States. They care about no resolutions, no reservations, no ethics, no abidance to the international law, no respect to humanity, nothing. How do you expect the coming phase to be in this war in Gaza?
First of all, I want to add something. Not all the European Union and European countries have voted against the resolution. Some of them abstained. You have more than 40 countries all over the world abstained, and 14 was rejected the motion. But most of the international community in the security in the General Assembly are not in line with the Israeli aggression, and the public opinion in the respective countries in the European Union, they are against the state of Israel and the aggression of the state of Israel, and they want to find a ceasefire and to stop the bloodshed. But as I said before, that there is no peace for such resolution. The resolution will be passed one after the other and stays in the archive and the history of the resolution passed by the General Assembly. I do not see any action like they did with the Russians in the Ukrainian war. In the Ukrainian war, you have very, very harsh economic sanctions against Russia.
Right. Ambassador Mousharafa, when can we say that Israel is losing a diplomatic and a strategic ground? Are we close to that point, or it will never come?
They lost, I mean, the diplomatic and the most important, the ethical value. Israel always was pretending that it's the only democratic state in the area that upholds human rights. They are ethically superior, but they lost the diplomatic battle, they lost their credibility, and they lost their reputation. And most of their, many of their leaders, they are liable to being persecuted in the international, in the criminal court. I mean, at the end of the day, they lost, but de facto, on the ground, militarily, they didn't lose, because they do have, first of all, not the approval, the support of the United States of America, and very, very few European countries which are preventing them, supplying them still with weapons. You know, some countries, lately Germany, have put a ban, a moratorium on providing weapons to Israel. Netherlands did the same, Belgium did the same, the Brits partially. They started a kind of declining the rate of supplying arms to Israel. So, I mean, there is a gradual awakening of the European government and a total awakening of the European public opinion against the action of Netanyahu.
Right. So speaking about a resolution like that, which is also comes at a time when the crisis in the Middle East is at its top, at its pinnacle, and the people in Gaza the Palestinians need that resolution to be implemented. It is not binding, of course, right? As usual.
It is not, excuse me, I didn't get your question.
The resolution that was issued by the UN for Israel to withdraw from the premises it had occupied in 1967, it's not binding, right?
It's not binding, of course, because as I said, the General Assembly is a moral resolution and a political one. it should be implemented and enforced by the Security Council. But the Security Council doesn't enforce,
Does
doesn't
not impose.
issue binding resolution under Chapter 6 or Chapter 7 to force the State of Israel to abide by the totality of the international community.
Right.
Still, in most of those resolutions, they are a moral one, political one, but without teeth.
Right. So in that case, as usual, if those resolutions are always not binding and they have to be taken by certain votes, and the whole scenario is repeated every time, they have to, I mean, a number of countries are supposed to be voting and some abstain. So there isn't any other formula that could be taken inside the international community like a UN to be able to enforce those resolutions other than that particular way?
Well, I think the United Nations system should be changed. The United Nations system should be changed, and United Nations system have been formed many groups, open-ended groups, of amending the United Nations system, curtailing the right of veto, and to have a more democratic and transparent system in the United Nations. But all those open-ended groups have failed to have a consensus or a blueprint for a new international order. That's the real problem. And this issue has been on the table in the each United Nations General Assembly roundtable discussion, open-ended group about amending the United Nations system, but it failed to reach a conclusive consensus to come at the end of the tunnel with something which could be adopted.
Right. Well then, if international community, some of the entities of international community like the United Nations are failing to be able to bring justice to its place, then we can try to explore new fronts like the Arab League, for example, like Arab countries. We have seen the important role that was played by Egypt, and in particular statements, very brave, courageous statements given by the Egyptian president from day one in the Gaza war. He has supported the Palestinian cause. He has refused the displacement of Palestinians from their homes, and he has held, even Egypt have held a conference in the first week of the war. So how do you assess the Egyptian role in supporting the Palestinian cause and supporting the innocent Palestinians that are being bombed every day and ripped out of their rights ever since, for almost a year now?
We convened the first week of the Israeli aggression. We convened a summit in the new administrative capital, which gathered many leaders, many foreign ministers, and we came with a concrete initiative to cease fire, to have a ceasefire, and to find humanitarian roads to assimilate the aid to the Palestinians, which are living under miserable conditions, which have lost their sense of security, even the sense of living, because there is no infrastructure, no water, no electricity. Egypt opened all the ports and all the airports and all the roads towards Gaza. Till Israel crippled the work in the Rafah crossing, which are the main artery for Palestinians, and they have destroyed the Palestinian side of the crossing, rendering the crossing unserviceable. So we deployed all efforts to help the Palestinian, and the Egyptian diplomacy didn't spare a minute. I mean, you see our foreign minister, Dr. Badr Abdi, is in Washington meeting all Congress people and even he made a record in meetings more than 20 persons in one day. And in most of his meetings, the first priority was explaining the Palestinian problem, the Egyptian initiative, and the Egyptian role to broker a ceasefire, which would save the Palestinian life. And we didn't spare a minute to have this ceasefire, and our position is very clear. I mean, we refuse any forced displacement of the Palestinians, and we are asking the two sides to start a serious political negotiation to find the two-state solution. The two-state solution is the only viable issue for the making or solving the Israeli-Arab conflict. And
Right.
it's according to international resolution, 242 resolution and 338 resolution.
Right. On that note, Ambassador Ayman Mousharafa, former Assistant Foreign Minister, would like to thank you so much talking to us on the Breakfast Show. And you have a good day. We're going to go to a short break and we'll come to continue the show, so stay with us.